Mr. Björk. Are we set?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, great. Then welcome everyone to our 15th WAX OIG Roundtable. Today is February 13th. And our agenda for today is mainly focused on the new guidelines version 5.6 and some feedback we collected in the past community call, which was a week ago. Then we're going to look through a few updates from the chat groups, Antelope Developer Chat and IBC2. And also Ross from Eosphere wants to share some interesting insights with us. So to get us all on the same page, in the guideline draft, we added the notes from the past roundtable, and we talked through a lot of stuff. Even did some brainstorming on ideas, but let's focus on the tech ops first. So we want to improve the situation with the producer reliability. The old scheme was that we were looking at every single round missed. After getting some feedback that this should be a little bit more subjective or allow for debugging purposes, testing, and sometimes missing also random rounds, we might, but have not decided yet, to go with a new approach, some kind of grace period, ignoring the first round missed probably, because you can miss one round and your fallback kicks in, and that makes you still a very reliable block producer. And we should be looking at the number of consecutive rounds missed, which is an indicator that something broke, like your internet connection dropped for a while or your fallback didn't kick in. Next, it was brought to our attention that double producing is a much more severe incident than losing a random round while testing out stuff. It is a more severe issue compared to the reliability, and probably the penalty shall be aligned with the route availability criteria to match the points. Not sure how to do it yet, but we are working towards that. Then we are also closely monitoring the producer performance, as we sometimes see sudden drops in performance for 24 hours and nodes getting back to their used performance. So that's probably a topic to get into and discuss next. No resolution for that yet. And also we had that incident at the end of 2023, where a guild dropped out of top 21 and didn't have a testnet producer registered at that moment. However, the most recent discussion about that revealed an argument why it is important to be registered on the testnet, even if you are in the top 21 on mainnet. The main purpose is to provide the best developer experience on testnet, like a very well running testnet, and also enhance the quality of life for developers. So we have added a criteria, a requirement for that in the past, in the 5.5 guideline draft, which reads, guilds are required to register with a producer node on the testnet and should be capable of producing blocks at any given time. Additionally, they must provide an up-to-date BP-JSON file for the testnet infrastructure. This has been in the 5.5, and we stand by the opinion to have it in there. Kiefer will probably correct me if I said something wrong. Go ahead, please.
No, I don't want to correct you. I just want to add on that. So there's two more reasons why we have it. one thing is fairness, because all standby guilds have to have producers on testnet and on mainnet. So it wouldn't be fair if mainnet producers would have to have them on testnet. And the other thing is protection of the mainnet producers, so the top 21 themselves, because we had this happen quite a few times that a guild dropped from top 21, then did not have standby infra, was rotated into standby on did not have testnet infrastructure, was then rotated into top 21 on testnet, and hence failed the following evaluation too with even more severe penalty. So that's why we just encourage or require everyone to have both mainnet and testnet. So on one side for fairness, on the other for self-preservation of the guilds and their scores.
Very well said. Thanks for that addition. So, especially if you're close to the edge of top 21, make sure you have a testnet producer running. Meanwhile, everyone should have it running. Check your infra setups, and if you don't have it, and if you're not registered on testnet, do that, please. So another topic that was brought to our attention is that we should be looking to define a better major upgrade process, like moving WAGs from version 4 to 5 on mainnet and testnet, and that shall maybe happen in steps. That was a suggestion we received regarding this. If you have any good ideas to add to improve the upgrade process for major software pieces like WAGs, Hyperion, Light API, Atomic Assets API, please let us know, or maybe add to the discussion, to the open discussion that we're having after the official agenda. Another thing that was shared with us was that whenever we make those policies, like the guidelines, we shall look at the implications that we currently have in the beer market, and many of the rules were made when we were in the bull market. So we shall always look at the current market conditions when requiring new software components to be run by guilds or additional infrastructure costs, and if they are necessary. That's it basically from the TechOps part. I'm going to skip the product and ecosystem development summary for now, because it was a lot of content and we can't manage to talk about it in 10 minutes now, but the notes are up in the current guideline draft. You can have a look at them. And of course, we can continue discussions about any of those topics in the WAGs governance Telegram group. We even had some brainstorming ideas on products that we should be building and onboarding as a network to enhance our user experience in the community, and also the product side of WAGs. So if you happen to have good ideas or spot interesting marketing and market opportunities, please be so kind and share them in the governance group for a discussion, and we can pick that up on the community roundtable, which is more focused on product ecosystem development and marketing at the moment. The community roundtable is happening every other Tuesday between the official roundtables. As you may know, we are currently conducting the tech evaluations. Nothing special to share with you, except that our APIs are running pretty well. We have an incredible good uptime across all the guilds on mainnet, even on testnet. So the software performs, our operators perform. We have a one-of-a-kind public infrastructure and we can be pretty proud of it. From the perspective of operators and the network health, there's also nothing important to share with you for the past 14 days. I was looking at the 12 hours now. For the past 14 days, no big incidents, no double producing, nothing out of order. A round was missed or two by Guild Waxdow. I think it was 2 rounds, not enough for a penalty. So overall, looking pretty fine. Black Illusion had a minor incident with some empty blocks, but it was quickly resolved, and we are back to normal. So everything good from that perspective. And on the last roundtable, we also discussed that we should be monitoring the tokenomics upgrade and the power up that we introduced in January. Just to talk about one thing, the power up fees are increasing. They have been increasing over the past days. And I think today will also be, we will also collect more fees than yesterday. So the system is operating well. It's being used. It's being not well utilized at the moment, but all signs show that it's increasing over time, and we rake in some good fees from power up at the moment. Also, block producers, CPU benchmarks, nothing to worry about at the moment. Seems all good on that front too. Just
there are some higher averages on there.
There are some higher averages on there. Let's see. So we can see some guilds on the edge of 0.3
Scroll to
seconds.
the bottom one. The bottom
Yeah.
graph shows more of the range. So sometimes there's some that are exceptionally high in comparison to sometimes the same server is exceptionally low. I mean, it's a battle to fight, but it's not. It's it's about to get worse. I'm about to drop a 14th gen i9 on there and see how low we can push it. We're not going to draw a bottom line. I'll push it to the bottom line.
What are you running at the moment?
A 10th gen i9.
All right, it sits in the midfield of producer benchmarks at the moment.
Yeah, I think Taco has a 13th gen, so I'm shooting for lower than them.
Their producer is flying, leading the race.
Correct,
but
we've discussed what that means, but that's a whole nother conversation, I guess. But just so you know, I'm throwing my hat in the ring that I'm about to push that as fast as I possibly can, which is a problem. I'm just saying. I've said it before. We've never addressed it, and now I got to buy some new hardware. So,
right.
Beast mode, baby.
This also boils down to the configuration on your producer. So you might. So this is not an objective metric to say. So if we were running all with the same configuration, this would be like an objective metric. But since we have individual configurations, this is very subjective.
It's the same test that's run over and over. I mean, it's objective metrics. The metrics aren't as static and as clear as they may seem, but I mean, it's designed to be consistent and objective within its realms. I mean, it's computing prime numbers, but which as Anders will remind you that that's not every transaction, and different transactions react differently. But I mean, that's an objective metric. Not to call anybody out. I bring it to light, and I'm going to push the border now to try to bring that exactly. You've got an upper limit, but you don't have a lower limit. And what has happened is that you've got people that are well within the guidelines, and then you've got people that are 3 and 4 times, and I'm gonna try to go even faster, that it's impossible for you to keep up, and there's no reason not to do it. So
All right.
that's why I bring it to light, is a bigger conversation.
Okay. So we have some messages in the chat. Maybe we should request the producers don't go below a certain execution time from Joseph, and then Kefa also adds we should tighten the field instead of having individual very fast ones, and we still need to solve the issues of API speeds. I again had a transaction fail 5 times in a row because of a wrong API estimates. Yeah, that's an issue that's going on. Pablo, if you want to quickly add something to that before we jump on to the next
question. Did we have any reasonable arguments regarding having the CPU quicker than others? Were there any problems with that, or it's kind of more or less theory?
Yeah, I mean, if a block producer, if you're going to do a transaction, let's assume everything's on par, with the world. I mean, obviously the conditions change and CPU pressure and all of that, but let's say that a 13th generation i9 versus a 10th generation i9, because I can see the stats right there. Taco's server is going to process them twice as fast. They're going to be able to squeeze in twice as many transactions into a block because they're doing, in theory, and it's going to cause a difference in billing because the API that they hit probably wasn't a 13th generation i9. It damn sure ain't going to be a 14th generation i9 either. So what you're going to get billed at the API level is dramatically different than what ultimately hits on chain. Good news, if it's a fast server, you get billed less. So that's good. But it causes discrepancies. And I know we're talking about milliseconds, but if you look at those, these servers are 4 and 5 times faster than other servers, at least on the benchmarks that we have. So that's why I always bring to light is that it needs to be a band. It doesn't just need to be a top, because people just go and buy new servers, right? Well, I'm buying the latest and greatest.
I kind of understand, but while the slow CPU, the implication is pretty obvious, but I still cannot find the proper arguments to have below the average. Well, I mean, CPU processing speed to be above the average baseline. So basically, it's kind of recommendation, but we didn't face any incidents related to someone processing blocks faster than others. While we had
here's an example to give you kind of a quantitative real world example. If your account has 20 milliseconds of CPU and you go to fire an action that is going to require 19 milliseconds of CPU, if everything were normal and functioning on the same level, you would get billed 19 milliseconds of CPU, and everything would be great. But if that block producer is running at, say, 50% slower than what the API node was, what's going to happen is that block producer is going to say, this didn't take 19 milliseconds. This took 26 milliseconds. And guess what? You don't have the CPU for that. I know you think you do. I know on everybody else's nodes you will. But here, where it matters and gets applied, it's going to either overbill or potentially underbill. Underbill's okay because at least it won't fail the transaction, but it provides a suboptimal experience, because then you go and look at the chain and expect it to say, oh, this is a 12 millisecond transaction. No, when you send it to the API, you're going to get rejected because it thinks it takes 21 milliseconds. So the discrepancy between APIs and the block producers, and then even within the range of the block producers themselves, can dramatically produce different results for different people. So I know, you like you say, I don't hit it either. I mean, I got so much damn CPU, I ain't never got a problem with that. Doesn't matter how much you charge me, I always got enough. But users don't. And what you'll notice is, and here's another interesting cumulative fact. What'll happen is that the API will start to reject it because who is that? Null, who popped it in there and said that they got burned with 5 failed transactions because of some CPU.
Okay.
Once you start failing transactions, boom, subjective billing starts kicking in. So now they start getting screwed up across all the nodes because something started failing their transactions, and it snowballs.
But the reason why Kiefer mentioned that it was related to the speed of APIs themselves, not the speed of average speed of block producers.
They're both ultimately the same issue. Yes, this clock speed, but they're two different ramifications.
In general, the problem was APIs because on average they have worse hardware than the block producers, and that's why we keep facing these problems across the network in general, but with APIs. And Kiefer made reasonable argument regarding that. So,
and that's why I say is that because there's nothing to stop me, as I've been saying for years now, I'm going to throw the fastest block producer I can out there. I'm about to buy a new piece of hardware. Of course, I'm going to buy the latest and greatest. So I am about to take that bar and push it even lower for the APIs that aren't up to speed. And that's why I keep saying is that we have a top, but the fact that we don't have a bottom, and a natural nerd thing is to just go faster, right? Why not? I'm better. But ironically, it's actually got a negative impact. Number one, it causes distinct differences between the different BPs. It's just every 6 seconds, you're going to get a totally different set of billing scenarios, and the APIs, and therefore all of the APIs that everybody's running to. If you want to be able to keep up with my block producer's billing speed, I now need all the APIs out there in the world to, in theory, be the same speed as my block producer. Or I need to stop speeding my block producer up to make sure that the APIs don't get outpaced. Okay, that's the root of it. And that's why I say I've held off, but I'm like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, but basically, by this, we kind of, if we have very quick block producers, we have to align all of our seed API and the block producer infrastructure to have the more or less same hardware and to have the ability to process blocks at the same speed.
It's to try to keep a bearing on it and progress with Moore's law. And you're absolutely right. I mean, and that's why some of us keep bringing it up, is saying it's not just this natural race to the bottom, even though it seems like it, and it kind of is. But why there's the, hey, don't go over this, but it's really even a, hey, you might not want to go under this because you need to be in the sweet spot. Otherwise, the network really gets lopsided. And I'll stop.
Yeah, let's try to get into the question. Are the current ultra-fast BPs with lower exec milliseconds causing currently any noticeable issues with APIs?
I don't know. I was reading Kiefer. I disagree that underbilling is the only problem. It sets an unreal expectation. You're going to look on the chain and think that you're going to get billed something, and you're not at all going to get billed that when you hit any API out there. So I agree it's not as bad because it doesn't fail it. But there's still, it's an inherent problem to keep going faster and keep going faster and keep going faster.
In general, this kind of should instigate us to introduce some transaction too with finality and retries. So basically provide users with capability to kind of cover that gap which we have on APIs.
That's not the solution. That's
not solution, of course, but means to kind of live with the existing infrastructure that we have and the existing algorithms of how it works, more or less. So,
okay. I added the note. Since we managed to talk about producer reliability, I'm bolding the producer performance, which will be our next interesting topic. We need to dig into it. But for the second, let me quickly finish the agenda with 2 updates from today and last week, which had been discussed. So the one that occurred today was that the IBC WAG servers seem down. Michael is heavily involved. Can you tell us a little more about it?
Yes, of course. Down is just something doesn't work. They ain't down.
Yep.
They're there. They're disconnecting after 14% of processing because, as I'm looking at the logs, it cannot read properties of null reading parentheses 1. So it ain't down, but we got to figure out something about heavy proofs will obviously trigger both IBC servers to, I mean, it's actually killing the node process and auto restarting it. So it's not down, but it broke. But I mean, I tagged Shaq, sent him the logs and said, hey, devs, fix your shit. But it ain't down. But you definitely see as soon as it does have issues because people start lighting you up.
So is the issue resolved already?
No. I haven't gotten any code updates. I mean, the services are running. Some of the IBCs will work, but whatever is triggering the wax IBC proof generation ain't working. And it's like JS dumping.
All right. So
on mine and theirs, I assume. I mean, they're reporting that all of them are down, but they're not down. They're there, but they disconnect because they crash over and over and over.
All right.
Leading edge tech.
Yeah.
Oh, they just did it again. Somebody just tried it again and just blew it up again. So I'm watching the logs real time, but nope, doesn't work. It's a heavy proof from USDT Alcor, something about that. It's something about a USDT heavy proof trying to go between chains.
Okay. I'll maybe ask you to get into this issue again on the next roundtable. Maybe we can get some interesting insights on what exactly broke.
Oh, I mean, I would put it in the same, there's all these edge cases and anomalies and variations that they're finding and working through. And as more and more people do it and press the wrong buttons, and they're finding different scenarios and edge cases. So I don't know. I mean, he's going to go in, he's going to update a couple of lines of code, push out a new version, and hopefully it won't be error reading properties of null. Hopefully we can include null.
But all right. Speaking of include null, he has been involved in this discussion, particularly because I think it affected Wax.js. But
I brought that up.
You brought that up, yeah. What this screenshot told us is that get block header state is a feature that is being used on the nodes. And
if you scroll down on mine, it's got way more. Nations doesn't have nearly as many as we did. That's a Nations graph. But if you scroll a little bit further down, I posted the screenshot. Like we're getting 8 million a week. And then the devs were like, that doesn't even exist in 6.0. That's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I think I referenced the discussion with a comment on the Wax network governance group. Also, Anders, I think, shared an issue with us, just a screenshot of an issue where they state that this won't be discontinued. But
they're going to go
it's
back and put it in 6.0. They're going to try to fake it till they can make it.
exactly.
Yes.
So we will have the backward compatibility with EOS.js. So the problem is EOS.js is not maintained like the original EOS.js from the EOSio repository. It hasn't received updates in a while. Greymask has forked the repository under their org and are continuing to develop EOS.js, or at least keeping it alive. I'm not sure exactly what the state with Wax.js is.
Well, they just released an update because it broke last week.
All right. But to me, it feels also this is not an urgent issue since we are not yet operating Wax on version 6. None of us is, right?
Well, I mean, it was urgent that we caught it in the development stage and they didn't rip it out, remove it, and break it the bad way. So, but they have since come up with a solution so it shouldn't be breaking it. But I mean, it was critical that it was going to, nobody realized what that was about to do till we just happened to stumble on it. But now, yes, hopefully it should be addressed going forward and won't catch us.
Okay, Include Null has just corrected me a slight misinformation on my side. The EOS.js package actually works with it without that endpoint, but the ENF EOS.js version, it's the ENF EOS.js version that doesn't have a fallback. So just to correct my presentation of information there.
So if but the ENF is the one that's in the Antelope stack, right? If you Google it and find the old version, it wouldn't have that. I don't know, Null, do you know what is Wax.js built on? Is it built off the original EOS.js or? Yeah, the original. So hopefully that won't be as much of an issue.
Yeah. However, following that discussion, it is highly advised to use a WRF-kit from Greymask to realize wallet interactions on the client side. For every DEP operator, this is a necessary task to perform within the next month, and it's the advised way to go.
To go to WRF? That's required?
No, it's not required, but it is like the best and most maintained product we have out there.
Correct. Again, it's a better product, but I mean, at least some of the devs I've talked to has been split reactions. Some have said it probably an easy switch out, and some have said no. I mean, they're having to relearn some new logic to do what they did. So, matter of fact, they just re-released, the latest version of Wax.js to address the issues with Wax Wallet and Power Up. So, I mean, they're still maintaining it.
I heard that it's for node operators, but I'm not sure how updating libraries is related to operators per se. Or I misheard something.
What was the question?
Yeah, I mean, it was mentioned that updating the libraries for interacting with Wax was kind of responsibility of node operators, but I'm not sure whether it's related to node operators.
No, it came up because as a node operator, we picked up that there was heavy use of an API endpoint that people didn't think were in use. That then led to chasing it down to it being used in Tapos with EOS.js, this ENF EOS.js. And that ultimately led the developers to say, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't break that. So they're ultimately going to put it back in, therefore 6.0 shouldn't break it. But that then led to this whole conversation about WRF-kit versus EOS.js, Wax.js, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anders adds a comment, migrating to WharfKit can be a huge task that could kill a lot of applications. So making sure Wax.js works is very important, in his opinion.
See, and I don't know. I've heard both. I've heard some people say, "Oh my God," and some people be like, "WTF? Why haven't you just Control H, find and replace?" I don't, but I'm not a dev. But WharfKit has been a pushback from some people, and of course, it's a cost. I mean,
yeah. I don't have a clear opinion about it, other than the implementation is so much better. It's honestly easy to use. It's honestly easy to replace Wax.js with WharfKit.
no. Null said it's not a drop-in replacement, so I would
it's
argue
not a drop-in replacement, of course, but it doesn't. So it's not much that you need to change. You just build the session, and then you can transact against it. So it's
and Anders'
pretty
comments.
relatable.
Anders' comments exactly the issue that a lot of us are running into. I mean, if you develop it and do it on your own, it's not that big of an issue. You can throw time and effort at it and learn it. I'm going to have to pay a lot of money to my contractors to have to learn and figure it out and get all this implemented. So, yeah, I mean, it may not be rewriting it from scratch, but that's a pretty substantial undertaking. It's not as easy as a lot of people seem to make it out to be. That's how I thought it was. All the devs were saying, just move to WharfKit. It does it so much better. But then a lot of people are like,
Yeah,
it's different.
I mean, it is different, but the dev community will thank all of you guys for explaining the issue and to the ENF, and making sure that it doesn't get hardly deprecated, and we can still continue using Wax.js to not break existing applications. That's a very good point, of course. All right. Those were some updates from this week that we wanted to share with you. So we can now proceed to the open agenda with our agenda bingo. So you can pick up any topic and we can start debating.
Discussing.
Of course. I think Pablo was first, Corvin second.
Open question. Maybe we should try to ask everyone to start deploying IBCs as a infrastructure requirement to offload something from Michael.
I don't know if it's refined enough yet, but yes, I mean,
the more people will adopt it, the more refined it will be in general.
Well, no, the more edge cases that are found, the more fixes that are getting pushed. I mean, I probably have to push an update about once a week whenever somebody tries something that breaks it, or Boyd finds some discrepancy between my version and their version. More endpoints. I mean, obviously it's good. It's if you're interested in it and want to jump into it, by all means.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't have solved the problem this morning. All of them broke because the code is just broken. Now, the problem is that just like Atomic, when you have 30 of us running these nodes and people are just kind of round robining, considering them all the same, it becomes very difficult to make sure you're on the right version, to get everybody updated, to get all the problems fixed. So, in my opinion, at this stage of the product, I wouldn't make a huge effort to make 30 people run them. If you want to run them and you enjoy the product and care about it, that's fine. I wouldn't say do it just for the points, but some people may do it anyway. But
not for the points. I mean, for customer experience.
Well, that's what I say. If you want to run them and be a provider of the IBC services, by all means, happy to help. It's not rocket science. It does take a pretty substantial infrastructure if you're going to support all the chains, which is another side of it. Is that, are you only going to run WAX? Not you. Is the operator only going to run a WAX IBC node, or are they going to run all 4 chains? Because IBC only goes one way with one node. So I probably wouldn't say, in my opinion, it's refined enough to consider it a stable product to where you can kind of install it, run it, and just systematically update it. It's just breaking. Alcor comes in there and complains that something's broken, and you're chasing down logs. If that's the game you want to jump in and play with us, by all means, like I say, no exclusivity.
Yeah, I'm already researching it. That's why I'm asking.
But I would, to answer your question, I think no, it's not to the point where I would say anybody is required or even maybe recommended. Obviously, not not prevented, but it's still in its infancy. I mean, there's still like I'm watching these proofs are just blowing up nonstop. So there's definitely a problem somewhere.
Okay.
All right.
Understood. Thank you.
I'll hand the word to Corvin, and then I forgot that I wanted to give the word to Ross because he wanted to share some insights with us too. So Corvin, go ahead, please.
Last week we talked about adoption, business development, and stuff like that, and I was asking about the Unreal SDK and this tutorials, I think Udemy course, labs proposal. Does someone have any new information regarding these two?
There are proposals up for that. I can't recall which proposal number it is, but it hasn't progressed since.
Yeah, they are pretty old in the meantime, I think, and I haven't heard anything about them for a while.
So
it would be good to know.
For the Udemy course for the Unity suite, so yours essentially, there has been an update in, I think, December. So the problem with that was that it was first declined based on yours not being released and him wanting to do the course on the Stratton version. And we said, no, that's not going to happen. And he can come back and do it on Liquid SDK, and then we would approve it. This then took like half a year for him to come around. So we waited. Yours had to be released. He had to get a comfort.
But it's released for a year now.
Yeah, I know. But he did not accept the proposal or resubmit the proposal until like half a year ago. And then it took some time until it was approved. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, sometime in December or so, he submitted the first milestone and said, and the timeline right now is for release of, I think, end of February, early March. I think that's what he wrote in the last milestone he submitted.
Okay, so you are in contact with these people and making
I'm
sure
not
that
in contact with him, but they submitted a milestone, and it's written in the milestone.
I just want to make sure that it's coming, or I mean, if not, then I would probably just start working on it.
No, right now it's supposedly coming. So the milestone was submitted, the last one, and they gave a new timeline for end of March, I think. Like 188.118 was it? I think it include no just send. No, that's the C++ library. That's something else. I hate white labs. Sorry. In progress. There it is. And then we have Udemy. December 14th, he submitted the last milestone. And I'm confused now. I'm pretty sure there was a milestone submitted. The milestone was approved. And now Wax Labs says there is none. I think there might be a bug on Wax Labs. Or I mix it up.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I mixed it up. I'm confused now.
I think we're talking about 179.
Sorry, I'm in the wrong proposal because it did not give me. I searched for Udemy and he did not give me Udemy. He gave me some other proposal.
I can
Oh,
only
sorry.
repeat myself. I'm open to work with anybody who has the right skill set to do a tutorial series. I'm just not that kind of person that goes public on YouTube and stuff like that. I can create content. I can create examples, whatever. I think as a preparation for the next bull market, and everything is becoming more and more bullish, we need better material for developers. They are messaging me in private every week and always asking the same questions. And my feeling is we need to extend that.
All
Yeah.
right. So just found the proposal, right? This one was the Unity SDK proposal. This was just shared, and Kefa is right. There was a completed milestone on that. 115. I will try to connect you, Corvin.
Yeah, okay, that's great.
All
That's
right.
it from my side.
Then
I wanted
Ross.
one more thing
Of course.
regarding the lower EOS execution times and stuff. I'm always wondering, we only have measurements for simple transfers, right? I don't think that the execution time linearly scales with the number of WASM instructions being executed. So it would be nice to see how all this behaves for actions with a bigger instruction set, like I don't know, minting an NFT or whatever.
Anders did a lot of some of those extra benchmarkings on other types of transactions, which do produce different and dramatically different results in some scenarios.
Yeah.
So absolutely, it is.
It's likely that some other actions are like 3 times as fast when Taco runs them, and not twice as fast.
Or even slower, which was interesting. It wasn't even the other way, is that something you thought was really fast is actually much slower when it does some other general transaction. But yeah, absolutely. The biggest difference, and we've looked at the Aloha, they used the prime metric calculation because that's kind of a standard used for calculation benchmark. Is it the best? Probably not. But that's why it does what it does. But by no means is it the end all be all. It's really designed for Mike. Mike was getting to go in and try different settings, see how it kind of results, and then know kind of what you're working with on a benchmarking type of scale. But you're right, different. Anders, I mean, you can give some details on what transactions tended to be different than Aloha metrics, or not. Maybe another call, whatever. Ross needs to talk. Let the kangaroo talk.
Yeah, let's hand the word to Ross.
Cool. Can I share my screen? Yep. Okay, so I'm not sure if any of you guys saw about 2 weeks ago, I did an article on Antelope 5.0, and I put that out, and it was basically on the upgrade process from 4.04, or not the process so much as the outcome of the upgrade from 4.04 to 5.0. And there were a few really cool things that I saw off the bat, and that the main one, that's the one. The main one was that there was immediate improvement in CPU performance, which is great. And then I also went on to show how well private mapped and map private works. So you can see it in that article. Right now, I wanted to use the same article for my, monthly I do a wax technical how-to. So this month I'm doing the same article, but specifically on the wax network, wax mainnet. And now I chose our main public peer. Now this thing is configured for 200 connections, and it is bouncing off the limiter at 200 connections. Like this peer one is just flatline, but I had a different result, but a good result nonetheless. So, let me share. I'll show you. Share. So I think maybe you have to unshare. I'll see that. So if you have a look, this is taken over the day. On the left-hand side, that's basically running 404 in KVM, 200 nodes, running TempFS, and running with 64 gigs of RAM. So it's oversubscribed. The upgrade, you can see the compiling upgrade process, whatever, updating. I just updated the node, all the packages and everything. So a little bit of a CPU blip, but then everything after that, where you see the green spot, is where 5.0, the O is running. So there's an increase in the percentage of CPU utilization. So out of 100%, it's a 15% increase. And I'm like, wow, that's a bit strange. And I went and had a look at some of the other metrics, but the network out. Now remember, this is a peer, a public peer. The network output has jumped by 2.5 times. So we went from basically bouncing off the limiter, 200 connections, doing 6. Now that's megabytes, right? So that's effectively 160 megabits. Right? So that's megabytes a second. So it's gone up to basically using, 160 meg link of the link, which I thought was fantastic. And this is great for a peer node, right? I didn't do any more specific testing on the CPU utilization, other than that is the immediate change. I think that's a good thing, right? And I'm assuming it's the same connections. Like as I enable that port again, the thing just goes wild. So nice little bit of information there, and I'm going to put that in an article. The other part of the article that I'm going to release is just about the difference between mapped and map private. I'll show you that quickly.
Best Easter egg of 5.0.
Right. Okay, so this is basically, running running version 5 and running version 5 using map mode. This is megabytes. So you can see it's bursting to like 16 megabytes of disk IO writes. And boom, you go to map private and you go down to kilobits, man. Kilobytes, sorry. Kilobytes. It's really, really an effective mechanism. Here's the actual kilobytes themselves. So you can suggest everybody run map private.
In the scale of IOPS, we saw it go from about 1,000 or 2,000 IOPS to about 2 IOPS, about the same write load as the block log or the state history log. I mean, amazingly different, but yeah, I measure them in IOPS. He does it in megabytes.
And it's not different. The outcome is not different to using TempFS. But the TempFS solution, you have to always start with a snapshot, where map private, whenever you exit Node.js, it writes everything to the actual state file on disk. So when you start up again, that's pretty cool.
Well, 2 things I'd say. It's native, which is huge, right? You don't have to hack and do things at the TempFS and truly be God system admin. And number 2, it's much more efficient. It does some big writes whenever it dumps like that first time. But like the TempFS, you're literally moving it all every time. I think that this new map even tries to be more efficient at when it does write back. it does it more gracefully. It's basically the best version of what TempFS kind of did. It's just native, and
Yeah, it makes it easier.
so
Yeah, so
far,
pretty
knock
good.
on wood, we haven't seen any major issues related to it.
I'm also quite happy with that that improvement in peer performance. That makes a big difference.
I see an increase in CPU load. I don't know if I see an increase in the particular traffic, but I also think that during my upgrades, they must have all come over to Ross's peer because we don't have as many as we did before. But
Well, I've got, yeah, it was basically, I turned off the node. It had 200 pairs, turned it back on, it got 200 pairs straight back again. And that's basically what that was. But the amount of traffic outflow really increased. And that's good. So that means that people are getting what they need off our nodes, even if there is a slight increase in CPU utilization.
What I did see was a substantial increase in my traffic of API. And I think it's related to the fact that the read-only threads, and of course we, increase the read-only threads because you can now, and just the more efficient ability to spew raw data, right? You couldn't even get a block sometimes before. And now I think that it's much more efficient at sending data. Therefore, we have seen an increase in data of API.
Yeah, I think that's, maybe it's across the board. Like I haven't done any specific API testing.
Well, yours would be peer-to-peer. I mean, that should just be blocks and transactions, but
this is only peer-to-peer. Right?
Yeah.
This node doesn't do any API stuff. But I'll get the same once we complete the upgrade over the coming weeks. I'll then be able to see inside of our HA proxy if we're getting any more. But geez, we get millions.
Yeah.
100 billion.
Well, like I say, I could see a substantial increase, not so much in the number, but just in the amount of data getting sent, which of course API is pure text. And I'm like, all right, you made just as many requests and got 20% more data. You probably got that block that was timing out before.
501 is out now.
I did see that. I haven't rolled that out yet. I don't know if you saw some of the chats. Lucas was in the channel talking, in this big WAX initiative for trying to make it easier to run these nodes. And I mentioned the mapped private and curious to see how WAX nodes under provisioned, or over committed do act when put under load. I know Null, I think he was playing with some, all of our nodes have 128. So it's not easy for me to trigger one that's in a low memory mode, but that's the next thing of curiosity. What about 32 gigs? What about 16? Where is that threshold where the paging file truly does thrash? I'm curious.
Well, there's only 10 gigs of RAM being used.
So 10, there you go. So
10 gigs of actual, it's 9.68 or something.
Yeah,
that's all that's actually being used. But I can tell you, when you set it up the first time, if you start it from a snapshot, you'll go through all sorts of hell trying to spin it up with 16 gigs of RAM. Once the state is built, then you'd probably be okay.
So potentially,
I don't think it would start with 16. It would probably be so bad. There'll be the memory pressure, the swap pressure will be so high.
Yeah, and I know Noel, whenever I mentioned it last week, he had said he was going to jump in, and I think he flipped a bunch of his nodes over. But yeah, not very many people have 200 peers to be able to, say.
I've got 200 peers
10
twice.
million API queries.
I think everybody just goes to the EOS Nation tool, grabs all the peers that are working, and you just copy and paste them. You know
what the trick is? I can tell you what the trick was. So when I did my upgrade, I reset my config to standard defaults, and I forgot to include the max peer-to-peer per host. So for a day or two, it reset to 1 peer per host, and my proxy server obviously jacked it up. So I think I lost a lot of peers because they started complaining, and they just went over to EOS.
Your shiz is broke.
So break
I
it for a
wanna-
day
I
or
wanna-
two, and you can get rid
well,
of
I
half
wanna
of those
be-
peers.
And I want to actually up it, because I hate it sometimes, even when I want to connect to our public nodes, and I can't, because it's just flat out. Back in the day, 200 used to be a limit that we all kind of knew to be a limit, but I haven't gone higher. So I'll probably go to 250 and see what it's like. And if that works, I'll go to 300. And yeah, that's everything from me.
It's exciting. I think I'm curious to see if somebody can run it on a podunk VPS now that this map private mode. I'm really curious to see how light it can get.
Was that a request from your side? If anyone is able
Yeah, I
to
mean,
do it.
anybody who's playing with it, I mean, we definitely want feedback. I mean, that's what those of us hamsters in the wheel that like to, push the boundary and see the new features and remind y'all what is coming out. That's how we learn. We get the feedback from how to work for you. I don't have low memory machines available, so I can't really test that. But I'm sure plenty of people have some. I'll try a potato. Let's see. So yeah, excited to hear back.
Right.
But like I said, you don't even know it's there. It's just a little Easter egg. So unless somebody reminds you or writes some article like Ross does, most people would never have even known. I didn't, and I didn't even want to do it. Ross just made fun of me till I did it.
I really appreciate you guys sharing all those insights, and Ross especially putting that into an article. That's highly educative content. Leave a like on the blog and or follow it, and always get up-to-date technical articles about EOS and WAX things, of course. Let me share that in the chat. Here it is. All right, we are an hour and 10 minutes in. Any closing word? Anything left you want to share? We're running out of time.
When's the tech evaluation?
The snapshot was 28th until Sunday, so 11th, and we are pretty much done preparing it. The voting will happen anytime between today and tomorrow afternoon. That's where the voting will happen. And then, of course, we added at the top of the current draft the deadlines for the submissions, appeal begin, appeal end, and the special appeal window, and also the report publication of 5.6. We will repost it in the announcement channel, of course, but you can find them at the top. I'm not sure if the 29th is correct, but those dates here are. That's when Tech Eval is happening. Okay, let's wrap up for today. We are meeting again in 7 days. The unofficial roundtable is usually more focused around marketing and product and ecosystem development. You can find some useful notes of the last call summary inside the current guideline drafts. Have a look at it, read it, quote it into the governance channel, and let's talk about it. Thanks everyone for joining.
Cheers, everyone.
And have a great week.